Overall, I think it's going to be closer because you could probably subtract 25 points from the France score based on uncharacteristic, unforced errors from talented international rugby players within that English group. So it was just a horrific day for them. They battened down the hatches, picked the old school groups, get the band back together, and they're going to be difficult. Yeah,
I'm sure you've been in teams where games have just gone away from you early on.
Yeah, I played for Connacht for 2 years. At a time when Connacht were absolutely. I played 2 weeks in a row once where we went 5-0 up both times, and we lost 58-5 and 75-5 in 2 weeks, and they're burnt into my brain, those games when reasonably good squad, and John Fogarty played in those games. Just car crash stuff, and when it goes, and I think that's where England what's
going to hurt them the most about last Saturday is the way that they were just physically bullied. Like the way that France won so many collisions, that the way England fell off so many tackles, that some of the tries are just going to be such horrific viewing in the video review. And like France, something like 74% of their ruck ball was in under 3 seconds, 45% in under 2 seconds. Antoine Dupont couldn't. It was an extraordinary performance. But even Gregory Aldred, having not played for 3 rounds, is when your front five is mangling the opposition front five and you're going forward at a rate of knots off the scrum. He looked brilliant again, and the ball went with them, and they became very inspired, like French teams do. They might well not play as well against Wales now this weekend because they reached such a high last weekend. And I do think that England will have a huge emphasis on just their physicality and their defence. I just don't believe for a moment that it's going to last them for 80 minutes against this Irish team that are more skillful, will try and keep the ball in play for 40 plus, 45 minutes thereabouts, and run the legs off them and ultimately pull clear, because also Ireland at the moment, and it's backed up by URC results and it's backed up by Ireland Cup results, have better players and better teams at the moment than the English do. So they can bring all the fire and fury they want, and they will, and they'll trouble Ireland at times, but Ireland will just have too much for them. Too much tempo, too many multi-phase attacks, too much versatility in attack for them, variety in attack for them, and they ultimately will struggle to live with that, won't they?
I hope so. You would have thought so, yeah.
It's hard not to see how this won't pan out any other way. Almost too much so.
I mean, that's the biggest concern with this game, is that it all looks too good for Ireland. Too good to be true, you almost feel.
It did in 2018 in Twickenham as well, do you remember? And
it was fine.
It was fine.
Yeah, it was done at half time.
More or less, yeah.
Henshaw, I presume, and Aki will look at Tuilagi and say, well, you'll be a handful, but you're not going to physically dominate us.
No.
Yeah, I was thinking of Bundy, Aki, as you were talking about.
Yeah.
That you're thinking about Bundy there.
But you'd almost have to say, let's just be careful now. No high shots, no red cards. Don't get into a personal war.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's exactly the type of thing. I know prior to the tournament itself, and Aki hadn't played many games for Connacht, I know my concerns were twofold. One was lack of match fitness. He's confounded that, but he still has an occasional loose shot in him, and my concern is that in competition, cup final type rugby, that can be the one time shift that causes things to change. And so I would have thought
that can apply to Tuilagi as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're right, Joe, because that's the beauty of sport. It's not like going to the theatre or going to the movies or reading a book. The ending is not preordained for you. Every single sports fixture takes on its own life form. It's completely ad-libbed. Now, you can say a lot of matches are won beforehand because one team's better than the other and the preparation's better, but we'll have a very good idea after 15, 20 minutes, because if you've got a team with a lot of belief playing at home against a team who've just been punched in the stomach like England were last week, if Ireland score once or twice early on,
they'll crack. They'll fold.
Well, they're getting together behind the post thinking, where are we? But if they get an early score, you look at Wales over in Rome, wickedly lucky bounce for them for the Rio Dyer try from the Reece Webb kick, and suddenly they're 7 points clear, and then Italy, who haven't won a lot of matches lately, it can have a fairly seismic effect on a match.
They sent over a huge physically dominant team in 2019 when we were world number one on the crest of a wave, and they changed the narrative for that Irish team and Joe Schmidt almost overnight. So they have history. Nobody expected that,
but still, even look at those teams. I mean, the back row against France, you compare that to Underhill, Curry, Billy Vunipola. I mean, the defining memory for me in some respects from the French game, and there were quite a few, but it's after each try, England in a circle under the post and Owen Farrell giving the speech, and he's basically with his finger saying, that's it, no more tries conceded, let's just stop the rout. Followed by X number of more tries, and then again huddle after the match, Owen Farrell, right, line in the sand. I just think all the hot air, all the words, they can't catch up on where Ireland are, you know. And they'll be fired up for 5, 10, 15 minutes, but I think they'll quickly realise these teams are playing different sport at the moment.
And it's already happened to England against teams who are further down the track with them, like Gregor Townsend. For all Scotland's flaws, it's their 6th championship under him. You know what I mean? They're coming up against a team for whom this is the 4th championship, who the game has been evolving for 4 years longer than England. And England are coming in under a new coaching ticket, coming up against a French team who are also in their 4th season under Fabien Galtier and all those coaches, and their game is much more evolved. And you're right, that stuff counts for a lot.
Yeah. Look, it's sport. You know, obviously something can happen, but it's just so hard to see it at the moment. Where does it leave Marcus Smith in his own head, do you feel? No competitive games until the World Cup now.
I certainly would leave him a little lost. I doubt he knows what they want from him. I doubt he knows what he needs. It's not like he's going to be given I would have thought, a very clear appraisal and said we want X, Y and Z, because it seems very apparent to me they don't know what they're trying to achieve themselves, and unless they know that, they can't give an accurate appraisal and feedback to the fellow who's meant to be running for them. They're being reactive, they're being knee-jerk, and as a young talented out half, he's going to have to ride out the storm. It'll be a real test of his mental fortitude. I think it'll be nice for him to go back into Harlequins for the next 6 weeks and feel like himself again, but the other angle is what impact this has on his World Cup chances with a fit again George Ford, who maybe has a run in to the end of the season, and they maybe have a line in the sand moment and said, look, it's 5 months out from a World Cup, he's not ready, so we just go with Ford, Farrell and Smith starts the first Six Nations game in 2024 and we move on. It could be something like that.
Last very quick one before predictions. Owen Farrell's kicking, what's going on there at the moment?
7 out of 15. That's
shoveling quite a few to the right.
I
like him.
No, it's very uncharacteristic.
Nothing jumping out to you visually?
No, he when a lot of kickers from a technical point of view bend forward from the hip, head over the ball and chest over the ball, you have a chance where you can kick it to the right. You can hit it to that right because your hip swing is coming through and you just don't have the room and in your body. A lot of the kickers who are very, I suppose, easy on the eye to watch, open out their chests and allow their legs swing through in a kind of a C shape to go away from the ball after they've kicked it. Diego Dominguez he was a genius at that. It was such an aesthetically pleasing place kick. Kickers who are more robotic, lean over the ball, head over, chest over, that's the tell when it starts going wrong. It's scooting out to the right because they're too cramped in their body. I've seen a little bit of that, but then I would imagine there's just a little bit of a yips, a bit of confidence as well, without getting overly technical, playing in a team that's underperforming with his mind clouded, and I think there's just a little bit of the yips going on from him. I would expect him to be nailing most of his kicks this week, for example.
Gibson Park start?
Yes, definitely, for the reasons that I would have thought so, because his impact was sensational when he came on, and also because it would surely be part of the Irish game plan. Hopefully the weather stays fine. I don't think there's been a drop of rain in the Six Nations yet. You'd like it to stay that way.
It's due to rain. 50% chance. Showers.
All sorts of horrendous weather was meant to be visited upon us in Edinburgh between 3 and 5 last Sunday, according to Andy Farrell's specialist weather forecaster.
He was disappointed at the lack of adverse weather.
But just on Gibson Park, you'd imagine they want to set a really, really high tempo, lots of quick ruck speed, because they saw what France did against England with quick ruck speed and high ball in game time.
Yeah.
And that will just suit Ireland more than England, clearly.
That All Blacks team of about 15, 20 years ago, where Justin Marshall played regularly at 9, they always used a box kick in the opposition half early enough in the game, and I'm sure there was that kind of an all black New Zealand flavour influence to Gibson Park using that box kick in so deep into the Scottish territory the last day. And I think I've given out about box kicks for years deep in our own territory as an exit, but I love it as a weapon there. If you're going to launch a ball 50 metres in the air, we're better to land it in the opposition 22 or opposition try line, because if you've
got time
50-50
to get there as well.
Why do it in your own 22? Just kick it long. But I love it as an attacking weapon, and I love seeing it there. And I think he nabbed that from the Justin Marshall school, maybe when he was growing up.
There you go. That was but a taste of the full rugby conversation. As usual, you can get the full chat wherever you get your podcast. It's waiting for you right now.